Welcome back, everyone. As usual, we are two dudes talking 80s. I'm John. That's my partner in crime, Lewis.
Hello.
And we're back. Sorry we missed a week. I actually was in Europe for 2 weeks, visiting London and Greece. And we had recorded one to have in the can, and the other one we never got to. So we missed a week. So I apologize. But we are back. And this week we're going to be talking about the top grossing film from 1985. Spoiler alert, I'm wearing the shirt. Back to the Future. One of my all-time favorites, and a favorite, still remains a favorite for most people. Lou, what are your thoughts? What do you think about when you think of Back to the Future?
Just a feel-good movie, man. I watched it yesterday again just to sort of reacquaint myself with it. And it's just a really, real good feel-good movie. Just a wholesome and I, I love it. It's near perfection.
Yeah, it's. I think it still resonates as one of the top '80s movies for a reason, right? Shockingly, I didn't realize that it was ranked the number one film in the U.S. for 3 months. That's
Wow.
gotta be some kind of record. Like I said, it was already the top grossing film. I remember seeing it in the theaters, just being blown away by the whole thing. Um, just, yeah, like you said, it's funny because, I was doing a little bit of research in regards to this, and I guess Disney originally turned it down because they thought it was a little too risque because the mother being interested in the son and all that kind of stuff. So they found it a little risque, and all the other studios were like, "It's not really risque enough," because you remember at that time you had Fast Times at Ridgemont High and movies like that. They wanted to see something more along those lines. So a lot of studios didn't want it for that reason. So I thought it was kind of interesting. But
That is interesting.
the fact that you brought up that was such a good wholesome movie, and if you can get past some of the concepts, absolutely it is. The screenwriter, Bob Gale, I guess I thought this was rather interesting too. I guess the whole concept behind this is he was looking at his father's yearbook, and he started to think to himself, if I knew my father in high school, would we be friends? And that was basically the concept behind what became Back to the Future.
Oh my gosh, man. I've thought about that lots of times, not necessarily of being in high school, but if I could have been a young man when my dad was a young man before, he was married and stuff, just to see what he was like, before becoming a father, before becoming my father. So, very interesting, very neat. I didn't know that.
So you would have worn the white patent leather shoes as well.
Probably not.
Okay, I think you would have. It's funny. It's something I never really thought about too much. My dad and I had many discussions about what his childhood was like in his teen years, and he and I had a lot of different interests. Like he was really into cars, and he actually was like the president of a car club. So I think he
Remember
would
that.
have been closer to you than he would have been to me. I don't think they were running nitrous in those days. So, if you go back to this movie, of course, this is the film that made Michael J. Fox. He was already really popular with Family Ties, but this sent him out into the stratosphere,
Yep.
as well as it should. And it almost wasn't. It almost wasn't a Michael J. Fox movie. So if you remember Eric Stoltz,
Hmm.
starred in Some Kind of Wonderful. He was also in Pulp Fiction, Mask, a lot of movies. He wasn't their first choice for Universal or for the movie. They wanted Michael J. Fox, but because of his commitment to Family Ties, they couldn't use him, and Family Ties wasn't going to release him, so he could do it. I guess at the time they were counting on him more to run the storylines because his mother in Family Ties, played by Meredith Baxter Birney, was pregnant, so she couldn't shoot. So he was carrying more of the workload.
Hmm.
Um, so they actually hired Eric Stoltz and filmed for 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, so they filmed for 6 weeks. They were not real happy with it. which I'm sure cost them a ton of money. They scrapped everything and started all over again. And that, of course, caused some, changes and reshoots. Um, I guess an interesting fact is Melora Hardin, probably best known for being Jan on The Office, was going to be his girlfriend in the movie. And
Wow.
because Melora Hardin's rather tall, once they fired Eric Stoltz, they had to get rid of her. So I guess they were able to work it out with Family Ties. Michael J. Fox probably worked like a gangster because I think he was shooting from like, during the week, he'd shoot from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. on Back to the Future after he'd already worked on Family Ties. And then they do the daylight scenes on the weekends. So, quite a lot on his plate, but I think we can all agree that it was for the best, the 6 weeks and the extra money. But I can't imagine Eric Stoltz inhabiting that role and doing with it what he did. And I guess even they were saying that even on set, he was kind of being one of those method actors where he insists everybody call him Marty and not by
Hmm.
Eric and all that. And even the I can't recall his name, the actor that played Biff was getting so frustrated with him that he was planning on, because how hard Eric Stoltz was pushing him in one of the scenes, that when he finally was going to have his opportunity to punch him in the stomach, he was going to really go for it. And yeah, he didn't make a lot of friends on that. So I guess when he finally punched, it never came to fruition because they fired him before he got his opportunity. But I think it would have been a lot different of a movie with Eric Stoltz and Michael J. Fox.
I can't even picture that. I wonder if there's any footage out there of, these outtakes, because that would be really cool to see. Again, Michael J. Fox really captured the role. It's hard to imagine anybody, else in it. It would be really interesting to see how different that would have been. Yeah, yeah, very cool, man.
If,
Hey, what would be one of your favorite characters of the
let me
movie?
let me go back to that real quick, Eric Stoltz, because you asked the question. If I remember correctly, I think there is footage, but I don't think there's audio with it. I could swear that I've seen footage of him as Marty McFly. I don't think it had audio. And a little interesting tidbit is one of the people that auditioned, which again I couldn't imagine, was Johnny Depp.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I just want to get back to that since you had asked the question. What was the question you posed? I'm sorry.
All good, man. All good. Just wondering what maybe one of your favorite characters was out of the flick.
I know it's cliche, but I loved Marty.
Yeah.
That was a great character, and him and his relationship with Doc Brown, I thought, Christopher Lloyd killed that, and as Doc Brown, I really liked the whole cast. I didn't care for Biff, but you weren't supposed to. I thought it was he did a great job because you didn't like the character. But yeah, I was always a Marty guy. Skateboarding, he played guitar. As you know, if you play guitar, you're automatically cool. How about you?
One quick note that I noticed yesterday in that opening scene where Michael J. Fox, is in front of the big old amplifier, right, and he's getting ready
Yeah.
to play. It's the most bizarre looking guitar that he's playing. I never noticed it before. I was like, wow, what is that? It's just really oddly shaped. It's a trip. Go back and check it out.
Oh,
Um,
that actually was a guitar that was actually in production.
really?
I want to say, oh my God, I hope I'm not wrong. I think it was called a Chiquita.
It was
And
small, so that fits.
yeah, I really think it was called Chiquita. And the reason, the guitar player for Jefferson Starship, I can't pronounce his last name. I think it's Craig Chiquiso. I think
Hmm.
it's maybe it.
I
I
think that's it.
remember an article in Guitar Player magazine where he actually got that guitar because it was easy for him to take on a plane and to practice and bring it. So that, yeah, that was a true guitar that was actually in production back then.
Super interesting. Yeah, I noticed it yesterday. It's like I never caught that before. It's a weird looking little guitar. But going back to answer the question, I love George McFly. I loved the job that Crispin Glover did with acting out George McFly's role. I thought he did superbly, and they were all awesome actors. To me, Crispin he absolutely took the cake with the way that he acted it.
Very cool. Well, continuing on your theme, and I never knew this till today. Do you remember the scene where Marty goes to confront George and, kind of as Darth Vader, and to
Yes,
wake him up, he puts the headphones on and
yes,
the guitar playing?
yes.
You know who did it?
Eddie Van Halen.
You knew that. All right. I
I
never
knew
knew
that.
that.
I knew that. It's actually written on the cassette, and it could have been anybody that had recorded it, but I remember reading somewhere that Eddie Van Halen actually recorded that for them.
Yeah, that's true. I was shocked. I never knew that. I know it said Eddie Van Halen on it, but I was like, it could have, just been anybody. But and I guess he didn't even verify that for many years, that he was actually the one that played that and just gave it to him. Because I guess Eddie, like for example, when he did the guitar solo on "Beat It," he never got paid for that. He just did it.
Right, right.
So. But anyway, one of the things I thought was interesting about the movie or the trilogy is they had to change the female lead.
Mm-hmm.
And Back to the Future, it was Claudia Wells as Jennifer. And in the second and third one, they went to Elizabeth Shue, which I always thought was really interesting. I guess Claudia Wells at the time had some health issues, which is why she can continue in the movies, which is really a shame. I don't think she acts anymore. She actually has like a boutique clothing store on Ventura Boulevard in Studio City. I walk by it every now and then, and it has some, Back to the Future memorabilia in it. And she's never there. I guess you have to actually call and make an appointment for somebody to go and open it up because it's always closed. But at least she's still around, still in the community. But I don't think she's acted in a long time.
Interesting. That's sort of a weird concept to sell clothing. You got to call me in order for me to open up the store for you to buy stuff for me.
And I don't know if that's just a post-COVID world or who knows.
Right, right.
So, but
Hey,
it
d-
was a shame because I mean, I love Elizabeth Shue, obviously being a huge Karate Kid fan, but um, never really liked her in the role as much as I liked Claudia Wells. I
yeah,
think
I'd have to go back and watch it.
Yeah. It's funny because I remember the second one came out and the singer in my band saw it and he says, it ends like it's just right as it's getting good. It ends and says, we'll see you, blah, blah. And I'm like, for whatever reason, I didn't want to sit there and have to wait for the next one. So I was kind of waiting for the third one to come out and then, rent the second one and then see the third one. So did you do something similar or?
I don't remember how I saw the second and the third ones. I remember that it didn't resonate with me as well. The second one was good, and the third one I think that's where they did it in the Western setting. That just it didn't do it for me at all.
Yeah, I think I've only seen the second and third one once or twice, but kind of the same. It's, for me, it's about the original. I was never a big fan of the trilogy, though I did have to laugh because in Back to the Future 2, and people widely call this Back to the Future Day, they travel back to October 21st of 2015 in the future, which is my anniversary. And I never knew that.
Wow.
And I remember when they were coming out with the shirts, I'm like, oh my God, my anniversary is when Back to the Future came out or they went to the future. So yeah, 2015, I shared an anniversary with that date. And I guess I share it every day or every year because that's considered Back to the Future Day.
That's
Not that
pretty
you
cool.
remember that.
No, no, I'm not good with remembering anniversaries,
Yeah.
obviously.
Especially, yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
somebody got me in trouble, and I won't say who. But um, so we talked favorite character. What's your favorite scene in the movie?
that's a hard one, man. Probably that it's really hard to pick out one scene, but I guess the scene where he finally gets sent back into the future, where they've got the whole apparatus to channel the lightning strike so that it can go into the flux capacitor, and the fact that he it just goes, it just charges right through, I guess, what was supposed to be a movie theater or some building, and just disappears right before that, impacts it. That was really cool. That was really cool. And then when he gets to the other side, obviously, and finds out that Doc did read his letter.
Yeah, that 88 miles per hour really helped. For me, I same. It's like there's so many great scenes, but I just remember being the most excited in the theater to see George finally stand up to Biff, and when he
Yeah,
knocks him out, I was just like, I remember the theater at that time just going crazy over that.
yeah, yeah. That's also a really good scene.
It's funny because I guess when they were doing test screenings for this movie, they didn't tell people that it was a comedy. And I guess they said the original audiences were all freaked out because when they sent Einstein back in time, everyone was expecting something really bad to happen to the dog because they didn't know what it was supposed to be, and so the audience was all freaking out, and then they're thrilled to realize that, oh, this is a comedy and the dog's just fine, didn't turn into the fly or something.
That's right. He was the first time traveler, Einstein.
Yeah, 1 minute into the future. What a cool dog.
Hey, I've got one for you. And you probably know this, but maybe the three people that are watching us don't. When Marty goes and auditions with his band to try out for, I guess I can't remember the name of the dance that they were going
Like
to.
Under the Sea or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, do you remember who was actually judging the auditions?
I do.
Yeah, I was positive that you did.
Why don't, since it was your call, why don't you reveal it?
I know it was Huey Lewis. I can't remember if it was also the news, but it was definitely Huey Lewis.
You were right. It was definitely Huey Lewis, and I think it was just Huey Lewis. That's one of the things I thought was really interesting about this movie, um, because the '80s, a lot of these movies were really tied into amazing, amazing soundtracks. You think of like Top Gun, you think of Footloose, and all these movies, Fast Times, and all these movies had really amazing soundtracks, but I think Back to the Future is kind of lacking in that regard. I mean, obviously it had Power of Love and Back in Time, but I don't think it had and some oldies, but I didn't think it had a very strong soundtrack compared to all the other '80s movies that were so incredibly successful that seemed to transcend just the movie, or just that the music transformed it to a higher level, I would say. Do you agree with that assessment, or do you think that do you find enough in the Huey Lewis and the News songs that you're okay with it?
No, I would agree with you. I mean, I love the two tunes
Yeah.
that Huey
Too
Lewis,
soon.
the two tunes that Huey Lewis has in there that made it big. I really like them. The soundtrack didn't seem, as you mentioned, to have the kick and the diversity, right? Those are the only two songs I remember from that movie, other than, like you said, a couple of oldies. So no, I would agree with that.
And now those songs are oldies. So
Yes, no doubt. That's
yeah.
scary.
So you're a car guy. What do you think? Would you have gone with the DeLorean, or would you have used something else? I thought that was a very interesting choice, and I guess because it did seem so space age at the time, that the DeLorean seemed perfect. But being the car guy of this group, what do you think?
I would not have gone with the DeLorean. I was thinking about that because the DeLorean wasn't really a very fast car. It was like a six-cylinder, and it's funny because you listen to the soundtracking behind, when they have the scenes with the DeLorean, it's like this burbly V8, and it's just like, no, that's not the case, man. It was, I think, it was either a V6 or a V4 out of a Volvo, so it wasn't very fast. And so I would have picked something else. I would have picked, a Ferrari or Lamborghini or something like that.
Interesting. Okay, but now that it's out there, would you want one?
A DeLorean? Yeah. Yeah, I would.
I really want one too. I'm not gonna lie. And I've never seen one, but somebody said they made them in red too.
Maybe it was you that told me that, but yeah, I remember them always being in the stainless steel, right? And I think I'm assuming they had some sort of a clear covering, a clear coat. And I have seen them painted at car shows, but yeah, I don't know if they actually made them in red. It's possible.
I heard they did. I had actually one of the guys I played basketball with in middle school. His father had a DeLorean,
Oh, wow.
so I do remember that. I don't know. It probably was before Back to the Future. Yeah, because Back to the Future came out in '85. So yeah, it would have been before Back to the Future came out. So he was kind of the trailblazer. But I remember he had that car, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. I've never driven in one. I've sat in one. I've gone to, Back to the Future, movie reviews and, things like that at events. I remember at one, Leia Thompson was there. But got to sit in one. But yeah, I never got to drive in one, unfortunately.
Wow. And you actually got to see one fly recently, right?
See one fly?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's yeah. So, some of you people may not know, some do. Some may not care, but there is actually a Back to the Future musical, and I guess it starts at the end of June in New York. So it's going to Broadway. But I was recently in London, and they've actually had the Back to the Future musical there for a while. So I did go. There was no way in hell I was going to miss that. Um, it was actually a really cool experience because the lobby, they kind of made it like a mini hill valley. And I sent you pictures of the lobby, and you'd go to the bathroom, and they'd have these different signs from the movie. You're my density and things like that. It was a really cool interpretation of the movie, and I will tell you this: the cast was really good, but the guy that played George McFly was amazing. He did really, really well, and the staging was incredible. They took some liberties with it, and I think you had to, right? Because you're changing it from to more of a musical setting, which I know you hate. Uh, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I think it's going to be a blast in New York. And if I go see it, and if I get out to New York, I will definitely see it if it's still running when I get out to New York. And if they do a touring of it, I'm definitely gonna go see it again. I really enjoyed it.
That's really, really cool. I'm curious, what songs did they actually use? Did they use original songs for, the musical?
So they did a combination of the songs that were in the movie, and they did some songs that were written specifically for the musical. So they did a combination. Power of Love was very prominently featured in the musical. Trying to think back in time. I'm sure it was, but I just can't remember. I I don't know what it's been. I flew for 14 hours the other day. I just got back. I got home probably after midnight. Didn't go to bed till 3 a.m. Woke up at like 6 a.m. And yesterday, after 3 hours of sleep, for some insane reason, I had all the energy in the world. I did 3 workouts yesterday.
Oh my gosh, dude, you're
Three
insane.
workouts. I finally went to bed at 10. Slept for a couple hours, was wide awake again, and slept for maybe another hour or two, and was up at 6. So my sleep schedule is so off. So the brain's a little lacking. But I did have to laugh because I was walking around London, and I don't know, for those that are fans of Deadpool, I ran into T.J. Miller, the comedian that's in the original Deadpool, and he's in Silicon Valley and everything. And I heard his voice, and I look up, and I'm walking right by him, and I'm like, I can't remember this dude's name for the life of me right now. I'm just like, and yeah, so he walked by me, and I found out. I went on his Instagram, found out he was actually playing a show in London that night, which I didn't realize. And yeah, and also I don't know this. I think it came out in the '90s. Shannon Doherty was on my plane too, so another celebrity sighting.
Wow, did you actually see her?
Yeah, she's on my plane.
Wow.
I saw her in line. I don't know where she sat, but I saw her. I didn't see her on the plane, but I saw her, getting on the plane, and then I was next to her in customs to get through. So yeah,
What a kick, man. Did anybody recognize her or make a fuss or anything?
I don't think so. No, she wasn't wearing sunglasses on the way there, and I don't think anybody really paid attention. At least when I saw her, I don't think anybody went up to her or anything. And then she was trying wearing sunglasses in line for the to go through customs. And I think, then finally you have to take them off because
Right.
they're doing the facial recognition scan. But I don't think anyone made a fuss over her. So
Interesting.
I don't know if that's good or bad. Like I don't want people to recognize me yet. Nobody did. I don't know.
Man, well
I mean,
the
I even got recognized. That's the scary part.
Yeah, tell us about that, man. That's a good story.
Oh, well, it didn't really have anything to do with Back to the Future, but I'll tell it anyway. So, I went to, being in Greece, my buddy Steve, took me to two different record stores that specialize in heavy metal, and both had knew of my band. And so I go into one, and the guy immediately starts playing it. I'm like, God, really, dude, you're killing me. The second one we went into, which was No Remorse Records, they're both a label. They put out the last Hitman album, and they did the Hitman first album reissue. But they also have so it's a label and a physical store. And the owner goes, "Look what I have," and he pulled out a vinyl copy of our release, and he goes, "You're not leaving without signing it." I'm like, oh, "Okay, right, all right, I'll sign this for you," and took a photo with him. And I didn't realize he posted something on his or his Facebook or Instagram, whatever, that I was, there in Greece, and I was going to be attending the Up the Hammers festival on Saturday. So we're waiting in line. It was waiting for Riot to play. And this guy comes up to me, and he had actually written an article about my band many years after we had, split up, and did a great article about the band, like a real extensive interview with me and everything. So it was really cool. And he came up and was talking to me about how much he loved the band and everything. And so it was really great to meet him. And while I'm talking to him, the owner from No Remorse Records goes, "Hey, somebody in the front I wanted to introduce you to." So he walks me up to this guy, and I start talking to him, get introduced to him. He goes, "Hey man, just so you know, I bought this from you many years ago and pulled out one of our CDs." He goes, "And I found out you were going to be here, so I came so you could sign it." I'm like, "Okay." So I actually signed that for him. And after the festival was over, the guy that wrote the article on us years ago came by and said, "I'm going to tell you this right now." And he goes, "You may think I'm drunk, but I'm not." He goes, "They could throw on the passage right now, and it's probably better than 95% of the stuff we heard tonight." I'm like, wow, all right, that's pretty cool. So it was a good time. It was a wonderful time. Of course, hanging out with Steve, who I've been visiting since 1994, was a wonderful thing. Has nothing to do with Back to the Future, but we kind of went off topic here.
It's okay. It's our party. We can cry if we want to.
Yeah. I One last little tidbit I thought was kind of interesting that I have. I guess the original script, Marty and Doc were actually selling bootleg videos to fund the project, the time travel project. And I guess Universal took one look at that in the script and goes, yeah, guys, we don't want to promote bootlegging videos. And so they had to remove it. But again, a little interesting, weird tidbit that I never knew and found out. So I find these things out so you don't have to.
And I've got one little tidbit as well.
Tidbit me,
There's an
brother.
there's an outtake of Marty McFly with Doc where Michael J. Fox is dressed up in sort of Hispanic kind of garb, right? He's got like a t-shirt and he's got like I think a hairnet, and he's walking around the hall of the high school going, "Hey, puto, puto." Oh, dude, it's hilarious, and they're both like trying to keep it together, and Michael J. Fox is cracking up a little bit. Very funny to see. And the last thing is Crispin Glover, clowny clown clown. There's a video out there. You've got to see it. The guy's twisted. It's hilarious though.
All right. I also read there was an outtake where, in the scene where Marty is in the car with Lorraine and he's drinking something and she breaks out a cigarette and he spits it out. At one point, they actually gave him real alcohol, and there's that outtake too. So look for that.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
So, do you feel we hit 88 miles per hour on this one?
I think that we did. We might even hit 89.
Wow. Let's just stick with 88, okay? That's the appropriate one. All right. Well, as always, guys, we appreciate you watching this. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. We always appreciate it. Let us know your thoughts on Back to the Future. And hopefully, we'll be back next week, talk something about 80s. Lewis, take us out, brother.
Peace out.
Thank you, guys.